I'm still like, I feel like I really haven't processed it, but I also feel like I'm really just getting way too numb to it, because when I think about
It's fucked
the
up.
Peep thing and the eggs thing and the hella sketchy thing and the fucking,
Everybody.
you know, it just feels like it keeps happening.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, it almost makes me not want to get as close to some of the artists I cover, because it just feels like it's such a fucking volatile ride that they're about to get on as like a young superstar.
I think that instead of looking at it and wanting to shy away from getting close to them, you could, I don't know, try to be a helping hand.
Yeah.
and
No, yeah,
an
definitely.
ear,
I'm
you
not
know,
gonna
instead of,
No, there's a lot of that with Juice Wrld too.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me personally, I'm not really questioning my role in it at all, but it does make me
Yeah.
wonder, like, really with the label. Like to me, the label is the main people that I kind of look at, and I'm just like, dude, shouldn't there be some fucking obligation to these labels to not just basically sponsor artists who are on drugs?
No, because they don't give a fuck, bro.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know they
they
don't give a
don't-
fuck,
it's like
but it's
their
like at
cash
some
cow.
point, will they give a fuck? This is my thing. I look at Peep's family. Peep's family sued the management. Is that likely to happen here? I'm not sure, but
I think it's too early to even like consider all of that.
it's definitely too early. But I feel like at some point, man, the label is going to
Like,
be
was he
looked
with,
at
like, the man- he
from a
wasn't-
certain way.
Was he like with the management, or was he with like he wasn't even like, you know? It was like how could they how could they
can
tie
you
them
blame
into
the label?
that? You know?
No, that's a good point too. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just the fallout from it is going to be really interesting. I know we decided beforehand that we don't really want to discuss any sort of like
Yeah.
criminal type stuff that might be going on in terms of the particulars about how the situation went down.
Yeah.
But I just can't help but look at the situation and think that at some point somebody's going to look at this and say, there's some really fucked up shit that was going on here, and
for sure.
somebody needs to be held accountable. And I just wonder how that's going to play out.
I
Yeah.
just hate that I had to find out about, you know, the criminal activity that could be tied to it, because then it just turns this into like a
turns to-
whole
It makes it totally
mystery and like, I don't know, just like so much to uncover other than just like grieving the loss of, you know, a
And
loved artist.
It really takes the whole focus off of like celebrating him and celebrating his life and his legacy and making it
Yeah.
like this whole like drawn out fucking
murder
dramatic
mystery
story.
thing.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's just like
It was so abrupt because it's like I wake up at 7:30 in the morning on.
I wasn't even asleep yet.
weren't.
It was like 6:30.
And you heard
the hell
about
were
it.
you
You saw it
doing?
on Twitter.
Tommy sent it to me. Shout out to Tommy Activity. He sent it to me in like a group text, and I was like,
Yeah.
I was still up. I was still drinking, and I was like, bro, what?
He sent it in the group text. Holy shit!
And it was from TMZ. I thought it was fake. I was like, hell no. I
Yeah.
clicked on the TMZ link. I go on Twitter and I see like Yachty and I see everybody tweeting about it at like 6 something in the morning.
That was what it was for me too. I woke up at 7 in the morning and I look at my phone and I saw it was a really cryptic, fucked up thing to see, but I see like Vlad saying like, "I'm sorry for your loss," and then I
You're
see
like, what?
somebody else texting me just saying "fuck," and I'm just like,
Yeah, what the
"Oh
fuck's going on?"
no!" And I'm like on my phone, just like, "What? And when I saw that.
That's like the last thing you're expecting.
Yeah, man, like it just feels like the way that I think Ski Mask and Scheme feel, and sort of the way I feel is like, when is this gonna stop? Like it's just been such a run of bad luck with a lot of the young
know.
artists that we've all been friends with or associated with over the past couple of years. It's like the run of bad luck that just seems impossible.
It's just crazy because it's just like one after the other. And like, you know, we did lose Hella Sketchy this year as well. Rest in peace. And like,
R.I.P. Sketchy, man. That's
I
a
don't
sad
know.
one, too.
It seems like we
RIP.
just can't go a year without losing, you know, a promising artist on the rise.
And you know the situation or the circumstances surrounding it, because like one of the conversations I was having with somebody the day after it happened was maybe this will finally be the thing that really kind of acts as a wake up call to a lot of kids about drugs. But the complications about the situation makes that
Makes
a
it
little
like,
bit less
yeah.
likely to me, because the whole idea that he just took a bunch of pills to hide them from the cops. So it's like I feel like a fan or someone who might be prone to using drugs might be looking at that like, oh, this is just sort of a crazy situation that happened. It's not that
It's not that,
regular drug use could be responsible for the death of a young person.
But it really is the same
Hell
exact
yeah.
thing. But honestly, though, the thing with me is like I feel like people were just speaking up on it way too soon and just like trying to make it a drug PSA when it's like no. But this is before niggas even knew that he swallowed him to hide from the police and all that, or whatever what the case was. Before that, niggas is speaking and making like a whole drug PSA. And it's like, that's just not the time to do this shit. The nigga just died. Nobody even is talking about, like nobody is checking on their family to see if the nigga's okay, to see if...
Let's be real, though. When is the right time to start having that conversation about fucking Percocets? Because I think, maybe it might... You could say that it's a little ugly to have that conversation right after the kid dies. But let's be honest, that's when everybody's talking about this shit in general. And that is a message that needs to be hammered home to kids. Like, I really want a kid to... be sad as fuck about the Juice Wrld thing. Think about the fact that drugs were involved in his death, and use that as a fuel to not do drugs or to fall back or try to get clean.
It should also just be a fuel to fucking just not get involved in that type of lifestyle at all. And you know, like as far as the other shit and just how he even got in that predicament in the first place. That's really you gotta look at the bigger picture and this whole society and fucking industry that we're in that pushes you to like do this type of shit anyway.
Juice Wrld told Future that Future was the reason why he wanted to try lean when he was a child.
Do you think that...
Maybe not even a teenager, when he was like 12, listening to Future, making lean seem cool, making perks, making Xan seem cool. And Juice Wrld and Future felt terrible about that. Future was quoted as saying like, how many other 12-year-olds did I influence to do this shit? Future on an individual level can look at this situation and say, I was wrong for promoting that stuff and making that stuff look cool. I'm sure that if OGZ is sitting in front of me in an interview and he's 40 years old, OGZ will probably be willing to say, I apologize for making drugs look so cool when I was in my 20s. Yeah. I don't think that there's anybody that can make it as an intelligent person into their 30s or 40s without feeling bad at some point about the tragedies that are associated with the stuff that are promoted.
That's like the same thing, though, when people are like rapping about selling drugs more than doing them. It's like, oh, like I feel bad for what I did to my community. You know, I feel like, I don't know, Jay-Z probably said some shit like that before.
Definitely. And I feel like whenever you talk to older dudes, you usually can get them to sort of acknowledge, you know, like that. It's like watching The Wire season 1 versus The Wire season 5. It's like
never watched The Wire. So.
Okay, fuck you guys. But when you just Top Boy season 1, you know, when you're just hopping in, when you're hopping in the game and you're just like selling drugs to people, it's like whatever. When you've been in the game long enough to see how drugs kill people, how drugs ruin lives, how rip communities, rip families apart, it's like you can excuse a younger person because they haven't seen the whole trajectory of what this does to society, what this does to individuals, and that's kind of understandable. But the thing about Juice Wrld is that every time I talk to him, he would talk about, I was listening to him, he's talking about waking up and taking 5 Xans to start the day. And I was having that conversation with him in real life about how when he was in high school, he used to take a fuckload of Xanax just to go to school. And he's good in school, too. Like, this is a dude who clearly was productive and prolific while on prescription drugs. And they didn't stop him from continuing to do what he wanted to do with his life. But I mean, there were times where I would see Juice Wrld where he had clearly like been in bed for like 24 plus hours, just getting off perks or getting off whatever, you know?
I've done that too.
Yeah, just looking like a fucking ghost.
I just think like at what point do we stop like glorifying not only drugs but also death in music? Because I understand artists are trying to get out their emotions and their, you know, everything that they feel inside. And if you feel sad and depressed and you want to die, like I understand getting that out in your art, but like listening to like Peep and X and you know the Legend song from Juice, I'm just like, it's just so eerie and like I just
fucking eerie,
you know. And I don't know how to feel about that because I understand like that's your art and that's what you want to, that's how you feel and you want to convey to the world. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I'm just on this, like, I want to celebrate life.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I was,
makes you look at shit different.
I was there when Juice wrote that song about X, and he was still so new in the game, like in terms of what he had experienced to that point. Like, these are the early days. He didn't even have his first project out. And that was like, to see him go from that, and then I think about the last couple of times I saw him where he was clearly like, you know, just so much further along in terms of knowing what the world is like, having been around the world, having done a fuckload of drugs, having like basically like seen what the world was like and shit. And it's like that year and a half or whatever, he went from like a little boy to somebody who's much closer to a man, you know. But at the end of the day, it's like he's stuck in this fucking isolated reality of where the only things that Juice Wrld basically was able to see in his adult life were like clubs, studios,
Big
hotels.
ass, and then his big ass fucking house.
You know, and he wasn't the dude, like, whenever we would hang out with him, he was never the dude, like, oh, let's go to this party.
Yeah.
Let's go to this show. Because he went from a regular ass person to so busy and so famous that it was, like, not practical. He never went through the, oh, let's hang out at downtown LA warehouse shows.
Yeah, he never, exactly.
Completely skipped all that because he was so, he blew the fuck up. He never got a chance to, like, really go to the mall as a grown man and just have it be regular. Like, he was a superstar from the moment that he started really, like, socializing after the age of, like, 18.
Yeah, and, you know, like you said, if I look on any flyer that's been out last year or this year, Juice Wrld is on it. From, like, festivals to complex cons to, like, any cons, like, he's on it. And I'm just like, this guy's everywhere. Even when we were going to Chicago to London to blah, blah, blah.
We'd see him at every single
he's
fest,
at every fucking thing. And I'm like... And then I think I saw an interview where he was like, you know, if I'm not doing that, then I'm in the studio working. So I'm just like, you know, and I think he enjoyed doing that. He liked working, but I just feel like at some point you have to like, I don't know, either you or the label or your team needs to let you.
Just that pressure of being on the road that much and stuff. Like, you know, granted, he's young, so I'm not sure to the extent that that might have had a real impact on him. But I mean,
how could it not though? It's just like physically, mentally, you taking care of your whole family, like. You got grown ass people that are like in your circle that depend on you, and that are all older than you, and you're taking care of everybody. You know, like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You know,
like I was having a conversation with somebody where it was like it was just a regular day with Juice Wrld, and it was like fly from LA to a music festival on the other side of the country, do that fast, then in the private jet, and then immediately fly to Vegas to do a club appearance. So that's just a regular day, flying across the country and back just to do 2 shows, just to make some money.
But those bags are huge, though.
Big bags, for sure. That was probably, you know, a couple $100,000 for all that.
Probably only had to spend like what, 1/10 of that to fucking fill up the jet or something.
Yeah, I mean, he's traveling with a lot of people and everything, but even then, like back and forth on a private jet might end up being $30,000,
I was going to say like 20.
something
I was
like
thinking
that.
like 20. But think if you get what 100 each show, nigga.
Easy,
okay,
100,
easy.
yeah.
Run it up. I got 10 from each show to fucking fill up the fucking thing.
The question is though, like, when do you decide, like, okay, my mental health is worth enough to me that I'm going to start turning down some of these 6-figure checks so that I can literally like sit on my ass at home and just feel normal and feel like a regular person? Because the whole thing with somebody like Juice Wrld, and the advice that I would give if I met some kid tomorrow that ends up being Juice Wrld, what's my advice going to be to him? Work your ass off, stay in the studio, tour your ass off, get these bags while you can. With Juice Wrld, I have no doubt that he was still going to continue to be a profitable, huge star 10 years from now.
Yeah.
But the average artist, that's the advice you give him is like, if you have an opportunity to get 10 grand a show right now, you need to work your fucking ass off to get every single bag because you don't know when that shit's going to go away.
Exactly.
But that mentality sort of puts you on the ropes in terms of just constantly being under the abuse of the system or whatever.
It's just fucked up, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Talking
especially
to
like,
him, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead, bro.
Talking to him personally, did he ever like convey those feelings of like I'm feeling overworked or
Being overworked.
because from interviews and stuff I've seen, he seemed pretty positive and like, you know, just happy and like I don't know.
No, yeah, I never really had conversations with him where he was like, "Oh, I don't want to be doing this anymore." But I mean, I don't doubt that he was having those conversations. For sure, the last time, well, I saw him in Dallas, and that might have been the last time I saw him.
When it was like the show in the stadium or whatever.
Yeah,
That was the last time you saw him?
Yeah, I think maybe because we were at some other festivals at the same time as each other, but I don't know that we didn't actually see each other. But at that Dallas one, it sort of seemed like he wasn't like really that excited about this because he had just like got up, got on the plane, went to Dallas, and then like when he's backstage and it's like there's people who want to hang out and stuff, but he was really just like on his Switch, just head down on his Switch. Clearly just in the mood of like, I ain't really trying to fuck with anybody. I'm just going to be sitting here playing video games, which is like good for him. Like you're supposed to have room in your life to do that. But when you're being dragged around like a fucking circus act, and then even when you're backstage, like he shows up backstage at his own show and there's a line of fucking YouTuber people who are waiting just to take photos with him and stuff. Like he's in such high demand.
You can't even fucking like sit down and relax for
even
5
chill.
seconds.
You know?
Because I mean, at that point is when you have to be like a diva or whatever, you know, and be
Yeah.
like, you know, no people in my dressing room, and like, you know, people want to talk shit on that. But at some point, you just need some fucking
Alone
space
time.
for yourself.
Yeah. It's unbelievable how entitled everybody feels for
Yeah.
their time and attention.
I
and that.
cherish being alone so much. Like
Yeah.
even like not just having like one person around, just nobody, just being alone. And like once you start doing that, you can't ever be alone.
Right.
Really.
I wonder this. I wonder if we're going to end up looking at the Juice World thing. Like, it feels like people are always going to try to lay blame on someone. And I already am starting to feel like some of the energy is going towards Juice World had people that were maybe looking after his career that didn't really give a fuck about him because why were there 70 pounds of weed on that plane? You know? And I personally am not going to assume that.
Yeah.
But I feel like the same way that the 6ix9ine situation sort of went in the direction of, oh, why did this, the overall narrative of it is like, why did this dumbass kid get involved with criminals? Is that going to end up being sort of the trajectory of what the narrative is for the fucking Juice World thing? Because I don't know. Like the information's all still coming out. We would have not even considered that a couple of days ago. But knowing what we know now about the 70 pounds of weed and everything, it's sort of, it's going to be interesting, especially if the feds keep looking into it and decide that they want to get real messy with it.
Yeah, man. This is all hella unfortunate, bro. And just like, obviously we know it would be no reason that he would need to be personally trying to fucking move that much weed, you know? Like, I mean, unless the nigga was flying back home with it, or
But that's the crazy thing about
he
it
could be
is,
flying back home with it.
I mean, they're going to say whatever they're going to want to say. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make any sense that Juice Wrld would actually be flying with 70 pounds of weed. But he's the one who passed away. Everybody else is alive. Everybody else could take the charge. So are they going to try to say it was Juice Wrld's weed? It makes no fucking sense to think that Juice Wrld would have 70 pounds of weed.
Yeah.
But it's
Well, why would he not though?
why
Like,
would he? Why would Juice Wrld be a drug smuggler of
Not even
70
a
pounds
drug
of weed?
smuggler, but it's just like
I don't think you need
If-
70
if
If you're a
pounds.
cop, you're really gonna believe that.
obviously
okay.
I'm not gonna believe
It
if I'm a
wasn't
cop.
it wasn't one of the other 10 people on the plane. No,
Yeah.
it was
There-
the
there's no-
millionaire kid.
I mean,
I'm not saying
he
that they
lives
should
in
go
LA.
say that.
Like, I don't think he what's going to be in Chicago for a day or two, and he's gonna smoke 70 pounds of weed.
Facts, yeah.
No, nobody
Come
on the planet thinks that 70 pounds of weed is a personal amount of weed.
No,
You know, if
nobody
it was
said-
10 pounds of weed,
Then
you
if that
still
was 10
wouldn't be able to make that argument that
If
it was for
10,
personal
you
use.
could low-key get away with that.
10 because if you got 10 dudes
A pound per person smoking
in a
Yeah.
month, sure, all right. It's still
that.
a ridiculous amount of
I mean,
weed,
that's
but
still
it's
ridiculous,
still
Yeah.
there's no cop on earth that's going to look at 10 pounds of weed and say, "Oh, it's personal stash." You know, you could have fucking 2 ounces and they're going to say it's for
It's
distribution.
just at the end of the day, we're not stupid, and we know that there's no way that this nigga would be needing to do that. Like he's not like he's some broke ass rapper that just is like, oh, let me sell some
Rapping
weed
on
to
the
make
side,
let me
yeah.
trap on the side.
Exactly. There's almost every other rapper in the game. That would be a reasonable thing for them to maybe do is to also smuggle weed in a private jet. But Juice Wrld, no.
It's just,
just
very
fucked, man.
sad,
I mean,
unfortunate.
but we talked about this a little bit earlier too. But the idea that he would swallow a handful of pills, we don't know how many or whatever. But
That's the
Doesn't
whole
make
thing is like-
sense
Makes
to
no
me.
sense.
I'm like, what?
But then, okay, like it makes no sense. But then at the same time, it's like, you the one that said you were like, obviously it's clear that like he probably has never really been in some crazy trouble like
Right,
that.
definitely.
You are like out like apparently the pilot is the one who tipped off the
and that trips me out too because
cops.
what the fuck is the pilot seeing? Like what?
You think they had sticks out on the plane?
They
Niggas
said
was
that the
like-
pilot said that there were guns. How the fuck would the pilot ever know that
pilot,
unless
too.
somebody's opening up bags or whatever? But isn't the gun tucked like super
Oh,
hit?
fuck.
Maybe
Fucking
they
know.
saw it in
Does-
someone's open bag, or who knows?
I mean, that
Unless
shit
we
sounded
fucking
crazy.
talk to the
None of
pilot,
us,
and we're not
none of
gonna
us
talk
were
to the
on the
pilot.
fucking, and
Yeah.
none of us were on the plane, and just like, man, goddamn, like nobody knows the intricate details of it. It's just so the whole situation is fucked up and weird.
There's still
Yeah.
so many questions. Yeah, like in particular, the shit about the pilot freaks me out. They're saying that the cops are already watching them since November.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's trippy because that makes you think like, okay, so are
They
there
been busting.
wiretaps? Are they watching the phones of some people that were already in the crew and we just had no idea? Were the cops trying to build a case for? Were they gonna pop out on Well, I guess that they were waiting to pop on him right there.
Yeah, apparently
How did they figure out
apparently in
that?
November they were already like searching their pilot PJ private jet and shit.
I mean, yeah. I honestly pray for everybody that was involved in the whole situation and everything because we really just have no idea.
Feel bad for his girlfriend.
I feel bad for everybody, bro.
Everybody
His
involved,
family, his
fans.
fucking.
Bro, his
His
girl.
fans.
I mean, that was his whole life. I mean, and the thing is, it's like, it's not just him. It's like everybody that on his team. It's like dozens of people losing their entire career, the whole
everything.
thing that they've been working on. All his family members, his girl, all crushed. Like,
Bro,
The part that makes me so sad is that like he was up for what, like a year and a half. It's like and he had,
He
you know,
did
like
so
we
much
said, he
shit
had
in that year and a half, too.
exponentially more to go, and like you
Yeah.
know,
he probably had like the next fucking 2 or 3 years booked out, you know, of shit that he had, obligations and shit he had to do. And like, I don't know, man. I met him in such a secluded like way where it was like not that much going on, and like they were all just chilling. It was just like I don't know. I couldn't.
you just went to the house, right? Like,
Yeah, I went to the house and they were just all cool. The dogs were there. It was only like 4 people there. It wasn't like hella people. He was recording afterwards. Like it wasn't even like, you know, like he had like 20 niggas around and guns around and 70 pounds of weed laying around. It wasn't even like that.
That was
It
really
wasn't like that at all.
The
you know?
thing with Juice is that he, if anything, he life got a little complicated because he just wanted friends. Like he just wanted people to hang out with him at the house.
He was literally chilling, like, you know.
But it gets kind of weird because it's like, okay, you got the dudes from back home that you're cool with, and maybe some of them will be down to like move out and stay in your mansion with you for a while and hang out. But eventually, like, dudes start to get bored. They start to be like, why am I here? Why am I fucking, what am I doing with my life? You know, it's kind of like for Juice, he's motivated to spend his entire life creating and going on tour. And that gets fucking lonely as shit because eventually at some point, the only people who are going to tag along with you are like your girl and maybe like a couple of people on your team that are being paid to be there. At some point, all your friends, they either have to start getting paid. And even then, they start to like get sort of
They want to get paid more.
They want to get paid more. They want to have like some purpose. They want to start doing something, and it becomes a very like isolated.
It's so
thing.
fucked, bro.
And Juice would open up to kind of whoever. Like he was very much like you could be somebody he just sort of met, and you could still like have a conversation with him where he would sort of dump emotions out on.
Bro, we talked for an hour about like LA gangs in Chicago and compared to Chicago gangs, and just like talked about gangbanging for an hour. Like first time met him, like we were just talking about nothing for an hour. Like he was hella cool though. He was hella chill. Like it was. I don't know.
There's
man.
very few people that you really look at after they pass, and nobody has anything bad to say about them.
Right, bro.
I feel like that was kind of true of Peep, and that was very much true of Mac Miller.
Yeah. It's just crazy to me that people even find the time to even try to say something bad about anybody after they just died anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're not saying something good, you shouldn't be saying anything at all about somebody that just passed away.
And then the weird shit of like your private ass conversations, like
Oh
being
my
posted
fucking
on
God.
Twitter or Instagram.
Oh my God, I'm glad you said that.
So much
fucking-
weird
it's just
shit.
weird.
You
It's
saw
just
weird
like
shit?
anyone
and
that
shit?
just died, just unless you're gonna say rest in peace or
Yeah.
you know them personally and want to share a photo with them or
This girl posted a.
Saying what?
Yeah, always, of course, bro. This girl posted a screenshot of like Juice Wrld sending her like a black heart or something. It was nothing serious at all.
Oh, I
and
saw
she
that,
was
and
like,
everybody was going in on
R.I.P.
it.
Juice Wrld. I should have responded to your DMs when I had the chance. Like what, bitch?
I don't know,
Everybody's
man.
cooking her shit. Like you stupid ass bitch. Like what?
That's fascinating to me just because
Somebody gotta delete my account before I die.
I wonder
because-
if it was probably during the very brief period of time that he was single in between.
Yeah,
like,
right?
He
Like,
basically had 2 girlfriends. For those who like didn't really pay attention to the 999 like history, is that he had one girl that he met super early on, Starfire, who I believe is trying to be a rapper right now. And then
She was
I
trying
think
she was an
trying
artist
to-
before she met him, I believe.
shout out to her, spitting
Shout out
them
to her.
bars. And then after that, it was Allie. And like it was a pretty brief period. I'm pretty sure it might have been like weeks, like a couple weeks
Yeah,
in
I
between.
thought it like overlapped, but
It might have. Sure.
Might have, yeah.
I don't know, but either way, it was like he just so wasn't a single guy. Like I had a conversation with him one time about what it was like for him being single briefly, and he just like described hooking up with a random girl and just
It was terrible.
nightmare scenario. Like all this bad shit happened, and I was just like, like in terms of the girl just being weird and
Weird,
like
just
acting
doing
crazy.
weird shit.
So I don't even remember it all, but then I remember talking to her and just being like, you know, that's like that don't usually happen. Like most girls are cool. They don't all wild the fuck out on you, but you know, they all lie.
depends. If
It
you're
depends on that
famous,
situation.
yeah.
Who knows, bro?
Very true.
You might fuck them.
People-
They just might just be like on some immediately trying to blackmail you shit, or just I don't know. It could just be weird as fuck and like fanning out.
And that's the thing with Juice Wrld though, is I feel like he's somebody who got famous, and you know, a lot of guys get famous and then they just want to fuck every girl on earth.
Yeah.
Juice Wrld got famous and was
wanted a
it's
girlfriend.
like already too freaked out by the you know, trying to just meet girls and shit when you're fucking famous and brand new and you don't like you're not that used to like socializing.
And they both used to go with him everywhere too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, honestly, that kind of seems like it made it a little easier to be like, kind of like, let me stay away from bullshit and
Totally.
let me just work. Like I'm gonna bring my girl with me everywhere.
He was
And, like,
definitely the soft girlfriend type, and that he
What
like
about that urge though to just be like, man, I want to just wild out.
he
and,
didn't
like,
really seem like he had a lot of that, to be
What a
honest.
great guy.
Because we would have conversations about like, and I remember him telling me that like the older dudes that were like sort of in his crew or whatever, that they'd be trying to tell him like, no, you
gotta
need
fuck
to
bitches.
get pussy, you need to fuck random girls.
Horrible
And
advice.
he was very skeptical of this notion. Like
I like that.
He very
That's
much
fire.
he understood clearly that you know
That's what-
that was normal and that's
Yeah.
what people wanted him to do and stuff. There's like maybe a little part of him that wanted to be that guy, but it didn't really go that far.
Cause he's like, shit, I'm already that nigga without doing that. Like I don't
Thank
need
God
to do
he
that.
stayed true to himself.
That's super fire, man.
Yeah.
He's
He's
honest.
just a relationship guy, and some people, you know, want to be like held down.
I mean, that is kind of weirdly common. There's like a lot of
It's because you
and
know
like
why?
Choppa and
It's
all
not
them. They all
weird.
like
It's not weird because you know
okay?
no,
it's weird because they're so young.
It's weird because it don't be bitches like that out here that's really willing to really hold you
know.
down like that and go through the trials and tribulations. Or you have a bitch like, you know, act like she's down then and then start spilling all your fucking start spilling all the tea
Talk
to
to the
fucking
shade
blogs
room.
and talk to the shade
Yeah.
room.
Rice
and-
comes.
and-
But okay, I want to correct because I tweeted earlier something about because there came out a Daily Mail article
Yeah.
with some particularly like gross headlines, basically saying like Juice WRLD's ex reveals all about his drug use and shit like that. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, how the fuck is somebody gonna call up the Daily Mail and give them all the details of somebody's drug use like 2 days
the
after they
Daily
die?
Mail.
And then but after I posted it, she hits me up because we are cool and I probably
Yeah.
should have sent it to her in the first place. But she said, they interviewed me and I didn't say any of that shit. I said some other shit, but then they took an old video because she had made a video back in the day talking shit about Juice after they broke up. And then it wasn't online. I think it was only online for a day or two. And then it got deleted. But then the Daily Mail took the shit that she said in that
How
video.
did they find it?
How did they find
They
I
just found it on some random, just like
probably got re-uploaded at
Yeah.
some point or whatever. But either way, it made it look like she was making all these crazy ass accusations
even
right after he died. When in reality, she said that right after they broke up over a year ago.
which could have possibly been her just, you know, saying some angry ass shit and just,
Scummy media shit, man. The fucking media
man,
is
they
disgusting.
just